So great story. I think so. What I want to do is really still connect the dots, right? So one of the other episodes was called Back to the Basics.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to connect the whole contrast to the law of attraction itself, right?
Okay.
So again, let's kind of go back. We've said this before, but if we go back, what is contrast? Contrast is that moment where you're looking at something that you don't want, right?
Mm-hmm.
Why is it important? Well, it's important because again, back to the basics, you get more of how you're feeling. So if you start to or begin to feel about what's happening as it relates to what you don't want, then you start to attract more of what you don't want.
Right.
Right. So that's the big thing. So I think that that's what this whole message is about, is when you're looking at something that you don't want, just don't get stuck. And you want to at least be aware of the emotions that you're connecting to it, because you will attract more of that based on how you feel. So to your point, it's the opposite end of. So when contrast happens, if I focus on the contrast itself, I'm attracting that.
Right.
More of that, right? If I'm aware enough and going slow enough, if I focus on the other end of it or the opposite end of it, then I will attract more of that. So for me, it's important for me, for the listeners to understand why we're having this conversation, because I think that we all experience things that we don't like or don't want, right? But what do we do about it? And I think that that's really, really huge, because whatever you decide to focus on as it relates to it, you could expect more.
Yeah. And then I'm glad you brought that up, because that's what was happening. Because after I think it was like 2010, when I was let go from that job, remember I said, well, what if
it kept happening?
It could happen. It kept happening.
Yeah.
It kept happening. And, I had a very valuable skill, and, that area, IT, is in high demand. I was a database administrator for, and a contractor for several government agencies. So, a high demand job, you wouldn't expect that someone would have that much turnover when it comes to a job. So I was attracting it.
Yeah, absolutely. We always are,